All right, guys, welcome back to Jerk Block Talk. I'm Jason Fernandez. We are here at CrossFit Rife, and today we're going to talk a little bit about programming. If you're new to programming, you're just starting to dabble into programming, what I'm not going to do is tell you what to do, right? So this is kind of a hot topic in certain circles. So today, with regard to programming, what we're going to do is we're going to discuss Strength plus METCON. And what I want to tell you is that if you're going to ask me the question is, should you do Strength plus METCON? The answer is it depends. And the answer is also yes. Now, what I want you to think about is a couple things. Number one, timeline, variance, and results. And this is how I kind of want you to lay this out so that you can determine whether you should be doing Strength plus and METCON. And the answer is ultimately yes. The following question is, how frequently are you doing that? And so this is where it kind of gets into this debate where people are kind of in the all or nothing camp. And if you're one of the folks that's in that camp, particularly, more often than not, you're going to end up being wrong. I would tell you that there is a certain population of athletes where this will happen much more frequently than it would for my just GPP folks who are coming in the gym just to get fit. And for these people, we're talking about competitive athletes where they had a huge training volume, where they have to put a lot of emphasis on both of those. There is a place for that for a lot of those athletes. But by and large, most people do not need to follow this prescription all the time. So let's run through a couple things with regard to Strength plus METCON. So first and foremost, Strength plus METCON is a good way to do some training, just not all the time. And for one reason is timeline. Like, on average, a class is 60 minutes long. There's only so much time that I can actually do some coaching, do a warm-up, get a strength piece in, and then do the METCON afterwards. You're very limited in what you can do there. You're limited in the amount of coaching that you can do. You're limited in how the duration of the strength piece, so how much focus can we actually put on the strength or the METCON. So an average timeline would be, if I was going to get a 15-minute or so warm-up, go right into the strength piece, maybe get 10 to 15 minutes there. We're at 30 minutes, and this would be, you'd be moving pretty quickly if you did this. And then do the METCON at the end, 15 minutes, and then 15 minutes at the end for a cool down. Again, you're not getting more than maybe 15 minutes in there, and I would tell you 15 minutes for a strength piece is really, really short. 15 minutes for a METCON is a nice little sweet spot to get short and long, but 15 minutes for a strength piece is not a lot of time you can put into a strength piece and actually get some good value and focus on it. If you just want to touch a strength piece to work on some skill pieces, 15 minutes is perfect. But there's some give and take there, so take that into account. The other thing with people who are doing this every single day, Strength plus METCON, what it is not by definition is variance. It's the same thing every day, which is the opposite of variance. So there's a couple of different ways you can do this. You can do Strength plus METCON a couple times a week. Check this out. You could do METCON plus strength. Not enough people do that, in my opinion. There's a lot to be gained by getting under a heavy barbell when you're tired of shit, and not enough people do that because lifting is sexy, right? So you want to put more and more emphasis on that than you do maybe going under a barbell and not hitting a good weight because you're tired. But there is value into doing it the other way. So if you're doing that, switch it up and do it the other way. We've had some really cool things that we've done here with, rowing a 2K or running a mile and then having like a finite block of time where you come in and do like a max back squat or front squat. A lot of people PR when you do it that way, and it's just an interesting way to mix it up and add some variance into your programming. Ultimately, what you should be abiding by is results, right? Are the people in your gym getting fitter? Are they getting fitter all the way around? Are they getting good at METCONs? Are they just getting stronger? Are they just getting huge back squats and their Olympic lifting shit sucks and their METCONs are terrible? Evaluate your programming and, more importantly, your athletes and the results that they're getting to determine whether this is a good thing for you to pursue when you start programming. by and large, if you are a new programmer or a new coach or a new gym, this is too much for you to bite off for a lot of reasons. The timeline gets way too tight. You're not going to be able to give the instruction and the time needed to the athletes that come in your gym if you're a new coach, you're new to timelines, you're new to teaching the movements. This is just going to end up becoming just a bear of something for you to tackle, and quite frankly, it's just you're not going to do well there. So just do one or the other when you first start. Not enough people put enough value into explaining to the members that the intent of today is to just go as heavy as possible, and that is the only thing that should be happening. The other thing I want you to take into account is most people fall in one of two camps. I have my people that are really love to lift weights, and I have my people that really love METCONs. They love gymnastic stuff. So when I give them these two pieces, naturally, as an athlete, I'm going to bias the one that I like most. For instance, let's say that I loved gymnastics, which I don't love gymnastics, but I don't mind it either. Let's say I loved it. And there's something heavy in front of that. So we'll assume that if I'm really good at gymnastics, it's very likely that I have some deficiency in my strength piece or my lifting pieces. So I'm probably gonna sandbag that lifting piece in order to save as much as I can so that I can hit that METCON as hard as possible and get a really good score. Conversely, the other way around, if I just love lifting heavy shit and body weight is just not my thing, I'm gonna go all out here and then I'm just gonna sandbag the METCON. Okay, so take that into account when you start programming this stuff, is just people are naturally going to gravitate to what they're good at, and they're not going to put the appropriate amount of emphasis on maybe the weakness that they have between these two pieces here. Okay, so it's not a question of like, should you or shouldn't you? The answer is yes, you should be doing or programming in these combinations occasionally. What you should not be doing is programming this like every day. Okay, you're leaving a lot of things on the table. For most part, if I look at a gym and I look at their program and it's METCON or Strength+METCON every single day, I can tell you a lot about where most of the people in that gym will be deficient when it comes to metabolic conditioning. And just because of the way a natural timeline works out in a 60-minute time period, most of those people will get crushed if we stretch out past 15 minutes in a METCON, which is not a long time. I mean, most of the kind of the old school METCONs are 20 minutes long, and that's where you're going to see those people struggle. A couple years ago in the games, there's a lot of athletes that really struggled on Murph, and that is not because the heat was so hot. I was there, it was hot, don't get me wrong, but I would argue those athletes did not train in that time domain. So it showed up when they got the test. Some athletes had never even done Murph before. So take a look at your training. If you're doing this all the time, again, you're probably gonna get fitter, don't get me wrong, but you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, okay? Put the appropriate amount of emphasis on strength and METCON when it's appropriate. Do strength and METCON, do METCON and strength. Some days you should be doing just strength. Some days you should be just doing just a METCON. Again, it goes back to that variance piece. Timeline is something that is kind of experience dependent. If you're a really good coach and you are crushing it on a timeline and you know how to correct athletes and you know how to get people where they need to be when they need to be there, you can manage this a lot better than most. So again, that's okay. But ultimately come back to what are the results? What do my athletes look like when I look at their logbooks? Are they wildly deficient in strength? Are they wildly deficient in METCON? Is everybody in my gym just crushing the clean and jerk, but they cannot get a muscle up because we just never teach it or we never get into the gymnastics pieces? This comes up a lot. And I'm not going to tell you whether to do this or whether to not do this. All I'm going to tell you is be educated on what is happening when you do this, or what the results could be. Take into account all of those factors when you decide to do strength and METCON. Again, it's not a bad thing. There's a lot of people that do this, and it's very effective. We do it here. We just don't do it every day. But again, there is value to it. But again, you don't want to just punt variance and take away emphasis from things that should get a lot of emphasis, meaning just lifting a heavy barbell, just because you want to do both on the same day. Remember, there's always tomorrow. You have a ton of training days in the future. I don't have to cram everything into one day. Really good topic, and I think a lot of people have this discussion. It's either or. It's not either or. Just understand what you're doing when you program it that way, okay? It's not a bad thing. There's a lot of value to it, but there's a lot of value to not doing it that way as well. So If you have any comments about this stuff, please put that stuff in the comments. I'd love to have a discussion about this. I think it's a very pertinent topic within programming and with CrossFit gyms these days. So put it in there. If you like this content, guys, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.